Hi, this is a video to help go over the guidelines for our second homework assignment, where we're going to learn a little bit about just how much the requirements for voter registration and voting differ across states. We're going to be looking at the eligibility requirements to register and some other questions related to that. We're also going to be taking a look at what ID you do or don't have to bring to a particular state. You're going to be researching Pennsylvania and 4 additional states of your choice. You can choose any states except for those 4 other states, except Florida, because that I made a sample assignment where I used Florida as the example, and you can take a look at the PDF file that's just a sample assignment. I've highlighted my responses for Florida in green so you can kind of see what that looks like. In this video, I tell you a little bit about using the homework template, where you can put your answers right into that form and then upload it back to D2L. And then I go through each of the sections. There's 7 parts or 7 questions, essentially. This video will probably get a little long and you may not want to watch all of it. So what I've tried to do throughout the rest of the video, I've put little boxes up in the corner of the screen and it'll tell you what part I'm on. There will also be in the description section for this video, I'll describe those parts and I'll give you rough time estimates. So if you want to skip to a certain part, you can do that by both looking at where that part starts in the description of the video. And I'll put a little box with a heading like going over question number 5 in these boxes. So anyway, the rest of this video is screenshots of either the Word document, that's the homework assignment template, or screenshots of the web with me doing a little bit of research, the same kind of research that you're going to be doing. So again, feel free to just click on through and not have to watch anything else, be going over this in class. You may be able to pick up all the information you need there. Okay. This is the template for entering your answers for homework assignment number 2. So the way that I did it, some of these where it says choose an item, it's a pull down menu. It doesn't include Pennsylvania or Florida because everybody's doing Pennsylvania, and I did Florida as my example. So you'll pick whatever 4 states you want and it will go in there. Now, if it just says click or tap, that means you can put in your own answer. And so you put in your name, and then, I would, based on what I'm looking for, I'm making this up right now because I don't remember, but there are some, as I said, that are pull down menus and others that you click and you type in. And Pennsylvania is the one on the left, and then you'll choose your 4 other states of your choice. And then at the bottom here is where you'll type in your reflection, and the questions are over here. Your full response to these questions is anywhere from 2 to 6 sentences, just kind of wrapping up the exercise. I've also uploaded a separate file that's an example where I've filled out all the answers, and I filled out my answers using the state of Florida. I've highlighted those in green just so you can take a look and see what the answers were for at least one state before you choose and work on your own states. And again, this is a PDF file that I think I named it something like homework example or sample. I named it sample homework. Part 1 is super easy. You just choose 4 states in addition to Pennsylvania, and it's a drop-down menu. I've got all of the states in there except Pennsylvania and except Florida, which was the state that I used as my example. So you choose a state, you drop it in, and then you choose your other 4 states. And that's all you need to do for part 1. For part 2, you're going to need to go to a website and look in table 1 to find the answers. This website is put together by the National Convention of State Legislatures, and I've got a link for you there. And once you go to that website, there will be 3 questions that you'll answer using table 1. And let's go ahead and go to that website and take a look. So here we are at the website to answer the questions in part 2. It's the National Conference of State Legislatures. And if you scroll down to table 1, just a little ways down, you'll find all the information that you need to answer those questions in part 2. The first question in part 2 is, what is the title of the chief election official in that state? And as you could see, different states, some states it's the Secretary of State, in others it's the executive director, in some cases it's even the lieutenant governor or a commissioner. And then the second question you'll answer in part 2 is, how is that person selected? There is a key up here at the top, a legend. So obviously E is for elected, appointed, and so forth. So for your state, you'll look and see which selection codes that they use, and that'll be your answer that you'll put in for that second question in part 2. And then if they are appointed, I ask you to include the appointing authority. If they're not appointed, then that third question is not applicable. Part 3 of your assignment is to find the actual official election website for each of your 5 states. That can be a little bit tricky, but one of the ways to do it is to go back and look at what was the title of the election official, and then use that. So if it was Secretary of State, the name of the state, and elections, do a Google search for that. For part 3, I want you to find the actual elections website for each of your states. And I want you to find the actual government website. I don't want you to get the information off third-party websites like Vote411 or even the website we were using before, the National Convention of State Legislatures. I want to give you some experience researching the actual websites. So some good search terms. You can put the name of your state, and as you can see here, I've been doing this. I put the name of the state, the top election official for the state, and then I threw in elections office. And I get as my first hit the Florida Division of Elections, and I'll copy and paste this URL because that's my answer for part 3. The next part of the assignment, part 4, I'd like for you to find out the requirements, the eligibility requirements to register in your state. So we're going to hop off here and go back to that official state website and look for that answer. So again, for part 4, we're going to look for the eligibility requirements to register to vote in Florida. You have to kind of look around a little bit. It did take a little while for me to find it, and each state is going to be a little bit different. But over here we have some information on voter registration, and we take a look around a little bit. And I think what I ended up doing, yeah, I clicked around a little bit, and then I finally did find who can register to vote. And in Florida, you have to be a citizen, a Florida resident, at least 18 years old, although they allow you to pre-register. You can't have been adjudicated as mentally handicapped with respect to voting, And you can't have been a convicted felon without your voting rights having been restored. They have instructions for that. But all that you would need to put in your response, I would just copy those eligibility requirements and drop it in to part 4 for each state. And you would go back and repeat this process for Pennsylvania as well as the 3 other states of your choice. Part 5 are the voter registration deadlines for each of your states. And so let's go back to the state election website and take a look. So now we're back on the website looking for the deadline to register to vote. And it did take me a little while, but I scrolled down and I found that the registration deadlines were down here at the bottom. And so in Florida, it's 29 days before an election is the cutoff point for in-person registration and actually all other kinds of registration in Florida. For part 6, we're going to find out what the voter ID requirements when you actually go to the polls are. So let's go back to the state website. So we were looking up things about registration. Let's go back to the tab for voters. And again, it's going to be different for every state that you look up. But let's see if we can find, let's click on voting and see what it says. Information, this looks promising. Election day voting, information on how to vote at the polls on registration day. And yeah, it does. It says whether voting during early voting on election day, you must bring a current and valid photo ID with signature. So they require, I boil it down in the responses you get to select. And the options are required photo ID, or requested photo ID, or required non-photo ID, or requested non-photo ID, or no ID is asked for at the polling place. So, but your response for this one would be required photo ID. And then finally, the last part, part 7, is just your reflection. You'll click in there, and in 2 to 6 sentences, you'll tell me a little bit about your thoughts about the different requirements state to state. You'll tell me if you think that the requirements are about right, or if they're too much or too little, or it may depend on the state. Maybe in some states you thought it was about right. Some states you thought it seemed like it kind of posed an extra barrier. And that I would like you to tell me if there was anything that kind of surprised you while you were researching this assignment. That is it. And I look forward to reading your results.